right, so we're continuing on with ancient Rome and Roman art, and what I'm showing you here is a model from ancient Rome, and you can see a couple of things here. One, here's the Colosseum, so it gives you a sense of how large this is. And then also you can see how the roads in Rome really meander around. They're not as organized as, say, Manhattan. This is because it was a city that grew organically over hundreds of years. It kept expanding and expanding and expanding. So some of the older cities in the world, especially in Europe and elsewhere, that are quite old, are not organized, like New York, which is a newer city. So here I show you the reconstruction of a basilica, and this is important because what we will see is again and again this basilica plan that's invented in Rome being copied, and it's copied all the way through the Middle Ages. So a couple of things to point out to you. The ceiling, the indented part here in the ceiling is called coffers. So they're making this structure out of cement, but to make a full ceiling out of cement would weigh too much. So what they do is they have the ceiling, but then they have sections that are thinner with this decorative kind of design, and they would make like wood sections and then pour the concrete into it. And so this has the strength of it being concrete, but it's not as heavy as if the whole thing were solid concrete. The other thing to note is we have this open section here. We have a walkway around the side between the columns. We have this open area here. And if you think back to the Egyptian temples, they too had this open area called a clerestory. That's following through here also in the Roman architecture, and we will see it continue on, like I said, into medieval churches. When we look at it from above, you can also see these semicircles like this. These become known as apses. And in this building, which in Rome was actually used as like a court building, where lawyers would be meeting then in these little semicircle sections. We have in churches later on, we'll see that these are where relics are placed. The next thing I'm showing you here is the column of Trajan, and he was another great leader in Rome, and here we're dating to 113 to 116, or maybe even after 117. And the column was in a public square where there was a market, and it was a way of honoring him. And when we zoom in on it, we see that the carvings on the column are telling of how he was able to cross the Danube and with the river, the Danube, and really build up and expand the Roman Empire. Now here's a really important building that you should take note of. This is the Pantheon. And this is really important because after this was constructed, there were many, many buildings that were copied from this, or at least taken elements from it and implemented. And we still have this building being, as far as architecture, an inspiration for buildings that are currently built today. And so this was built between 110 and 128. And notice I don't even say CE. We're past the year 0. It's not necessary, really. It's only when we're on the BC side of things that it's so important to make sure you're writing BC or BCE. So you'll notice right away it's a really unusual building in that it has a hole in the ceiling up here. And this is called an oculus. And there's no glass in it. When it rains, the rain comes in. It's just that in Rome, it's pretty dry. It doesn't rain very much. We also have, as I just said before, these are called coffers. We have coffered ceiling. And it is this huge cement dome that is sitting on this round base. So the whole building is round. So when you walk into the space, you're surrounded by this, and you see the oculus. When the sunlight comes through it, we have this shaft of light that hits the wall, and as the time of day passes, this actually slowly moves from one side of the room to the next side of the room. It's quite amazing to stand there and watch it move. It was originally in honor of Greek gods, and there were different gods that were located in these sections, but then it later becomes a church, and these gods are replaced with the Catholic god and saints. And I have a video up on this that you should watch, but it also shows that the wealth of Rome when it was built, because the marble and other materials that was used came from vast regions far, far away from Rome within the Roman Empire. So the fact that the empire was able to obtain these and bring these back to Rome, the emperor, it made it that it was, he had this great power. And here we have it from the outside. So the outside, it's more like a traditional kind of temple that we've looked at, but you can see the back of it is very different. The other thing that's very interesting is when you look at the side, you can see it kind of looks like it's going down. Well, that's because it goes down to where the original street was. But this is, this is so old that they've paved again and again on top of it, and the street has actually risen, so it covers the steps of the Pantheon. And here we have it, an overview, so you can just see how round it is. So be very careful with Pantheon. I always have students mix up Pantheon and Parthenon, which I think is pretty easy to do. But the Pantheon is this round building that is Roman, and the Parthenon is the Greek temple to Athena that is located on the Acropolis in Greece. So I'm going to stop that. Actually, no, I have time. I'm going to go on with the portraits and sculpture and paintings. So we have at this time period this more realistic style that is emerging, again copied from the Hellenistic period of the Greeks. And we have a class system here. This was a Flavian woman. The Flavians were people of great wealth in Rome. And so you can tell that she's from a very wealthy class from her hairstyle, because she's not able to do this by herself. So she has a servant or a slave or somebody that is helping her to create this very elaborate hairstyle. And remember, these would have been painted. All of these images, we look at them nowadays as these stark kind of white pieces of sculpture, but in the original state, they would have been painted. And it's quite beautiful how she turns her head and tilts it, and she has this very, beautiful elongated neck. And when we look at the back, we can see really how elaborate this hairstyle was. And we're around circa 90. And here we have another Flavian woman from the late 1st century. And she, again, this is what these people look like. They have these sculptures not idealized, but really trying to represent them exactly. So she has some wrinkles that are showing, some bags under her eyes, but she too has a pretty elaborate hairstyle, although not as elaborate as the younger woman. But she too would have had a servant or a maid that is helping her with her hair, and she's not going to be doing any kind of housework or anything like that. When we move over to Pompeii, the very famous city that was destroyed by the volcanic eruption of Mount Vesuvius, we have images like this that have been discovered that were painted on the walls of people's homes. So instead of having a portrait painted and then you hang it on your wall, they literally had the portrait painted on the wall. So this is a fresco painting that was painted directly on the wall. And we made the assumption that these are the two people that own the villa where it was found, and that they were pretty well off. They look like they're, not living a horribly, labor intensive working life, that they may be merchants or traders, or they may be storekeepers or something like that, and they have a good living and they don't have to work breaking their backs every day. So it helps us to really show, like what is happening, give us an idea of what is happening across the empire at this time. This is a good place to stop, and I'll pick it up then with my next image of Marcus Aurelius.